I'm Norm. I'm a content specialist here at Page One Power, and I'm really excited to talk to you about link building, and specifically with our modern romance presentation, talk about how you can create the content you need to earn the links that will help make your website visible in search. We're going to have a conversation at the end. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. I'll try to answer as many as I can before I let you all go. But without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my slide deck, and we're going to get right into it. Am I still muted? Or are we good? All right, perfect. Sorry about that. Having classic Zoom meeting glitches. So, modern romance. If you're watching this presentation, you should already recognize that links, backlinks specifically, are essential to your visibility in search. They always have been, and there's really been no compelling evidence to suggest that they'll ever lose that importance, even as other ranking factors begin to rise in importance, like content quality, EAT factors, which we'll get into. But the biggest obstacle that I encounter for many sites trying to earn links, regardless of their industry, is that they focus too hard on using all of their web content specifically for conversion. In other words, these sites tend to lead with what they want, a call to action, promotion of a product, and other language focused on their internal business goals. So to understand why this doesn't work, I'd like you to consider the modern dating profile that we use online. Regardless of the platform, which do you think is more effective? A profile that leads with all of a person's must-haves. You must be this tall, you must weigh this much, you must appreciate the same music I like, these authors share these political views, you must earn this minimum annual income, and you must be free from the following congenital conditions, and so on and so forth. Alternatively, how appealing is a profile that leads with what the person has to offer? I'm an outdoorsy type and I love to hike and go boating, or I've memorized all the Marvel movies and I can nerd out about that series for hours. I have so much love and energy, enthusiasm to give, and I'm excited to meet new people. Like online dating, web search is all about making connections and being found, but it's terribly easy to get lost in the details and lose sight of the bigger picture. So today, what we're going to talk about is how you can make those important, genuine connections, keeping in mind that it's real people, not just websites, who are the ones deciding whether to swipe right and whether to link to you. So we're going to talk about how you can offer something valuable and compelling, not just to the people that you're trying to sell to, but the people that you need to appeal to earn backlinks, because those are two very different audiences with distinct needs, different expectations, and very different levels of tolerance for your usual approach to content. So this is the big one, and this is perhaps the biggest point of overlap between online dating and SEO. Everyone is looking for a reason to eliminate time wasters and narrow the menu of options they have to deal with, rather than looking for options to connect with someone or to think about spending time considering someone seriously. Most of us prioritize cutting people from further consideration. This is also true of your target audience, your qualified leads who are considering who to give their business to, but it is especially true of potential backlinkers. Site owners and editors have a really powerful nose for sites or even content trying to solicit free advertising or to get promotional links and participate in content marketing schemes. They are more than willing to strip links from content that doesn't serve their needs, or simply reject your ask and delete the email you sent them outright. And I think this is how a lot of people approach online dating. Even though on the surface, these are platforms we use to hunt for connections, in practice, it's fun to impulsively swipe left anytime we see anything that remotely resembles a red flag, as we define personally based on our own tolerances and preferences. The result in both situations is that you have very, very little precious time and opportunity to make it through the initial filter and actually build a connection. So the best option available to you is to stand out from the beginning. Lead with something unique, engaging, and above all else, valuable to those other people. So, link-worthy content cannot open with something selfish, with a demand or an ask. No one is going to be interested in engaging with your content when you come out in that content focused only on what you want, what you think you deserve, and really only appealing to a very minuscule curated target audience of ideal visitors or readers or potential matches. Because again, your qualified leads, your most qualified leads, they're the ones you rely on to pay the bills, but they are not the ones who are actually going to give you backlinks from their websites. So to reach these actual backlinkers, you have to consider the other needs, interests, concerns, and even demographics that you need to reach in order to appeal to the people you need to earn links and attain your search visibility. The qualified leads in your core customer audience, they already need something you offer, which is why they would visit or consider you in the first place. But the rest of the web needs a different reason to get interested, or they'll never consider linking to you at all. Trying too hard is definitely a turnoff. Suppose you manage to get an initial swipe right on one of these dating profiles. So you've got someone's attention. You have a brief window in which you can try to make that invaluable, irreplaceable first impression. So what do you do with it? Do you talk exclusively about yourself, explain what you think in your view makes you the best? Are you going to start demanding commitments and setting expectations, defining the exact parameters of your ideal relationship? In other words, is all the messaging that you're creating driving inexorably toward conversion? Or do you consider for a moment what other people want to hear and what other people want to talk about? To make linkable content, to make genuine connections, listen. Pay attention to the conversations happening outside your own head or your own internal marketing and sales departments. What experiences is your target audience having? What other pain points do they face besides the ones you have a special solution for? What are they searching for? Where did they look before they found you? What other experiences and topics and conversations do they relate to? In other words, stop talking about yourself. Stop trying to score. Stop trying to get the conversion. Find a way that you can relate, be relevant, and engage other audiences organically before jumping right into a sales pitch. So, what do you have to offer? It's really, really typical for sites to come to the table and expect to start link building with a robust set of goals and optimized landing pages, all focused on their products or services, only to find out that asking for links to these pages doesn't really work. Why? You know your value, you believe you're the best, you know you need links to get visibility that your site and your brand deserve. Why isn't the rest of the web playing along with this? Because earning links is a very different exercise compared to making a value proposition to your qualified visitors or appealing to searchers who are already comparing you against your direct competitors. The thing you have to offer other sites is not going to be the same as what you would normally offer your customers. You have to think outside the box to make a value proposition that resonates with editors, webmasters, and site owners that aren't the key people in your target audience. Now, I always feel viscerally the tension and the clenching whenever I start to point out that the sort of people that you want to appeal to earn links are not the same people that you're trying to persuade in order to get a conversion. And by extension, the content that you'll use to earn links is not going to be the same as the content that you've already published to attract, persuade, and engage your target audience. So a lot of people make the jump and immediately think this means link-worthy content must not be very relevant. So I want to be clear, full stop. If content is not relevant to your brand, that content does not belong on your website. But there is a lot of space and a lot of potential topics and pain points, areas of interest, and general tangents that you can explore between where your customers are supposed to end up for conversions and where the rest of the web might start to get interested in what you have to say. The point isn't to be irrelevant or unnatural. The point is to make natural, contextual connections to your core pages and the keywords that you want them to rank for in the space of content that discusses something broader and more appealing and accessible. For example, if you'll forgive me for being a little self-serving here, Page One Power offers link building services and SEO content creation. Most people are not interested in these things. It's a very niche B2B service that the average reader on the web won't care about or understand, which is fine. Because if we talk more broadly about things like the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web, or even dissecting if, how, and when Google combats misinformation or partisan favoritism in search engine results, suddenly SEO topics are very engaging, useful, and most importantly, link-worthy to a much wider and more diverse audience than people who are already shopping for what Page One Power offers. The connection's still there. We can still naturally mention our link building research or keyword research services. We can internally link to those target pages, but we're doing so in the service of bringing broader, valuable, interesting information to readers outside of our traditional target audience. So put differently, the audience we want to reach most can still benefit from reading this type of content. They can still learn about our industry and our brand, but we're not couching that information in a sales pitch or some contrived testimonial. We're just talking about subjects that we know other sites and their respective audiences will be interested to read about, share, and link to. So, with respect to relevance, it is essential. Maintain your on-brand topical relevance, but do so to facilitate mentions and internal links to your target pages, the pages that you want to rank for internal keywords, the pages that you want most closely associated with your brand, and the pages that ultimately do facilitate conversion. That's how you pass the link equity from the pages that can earn backlinks and all the SEO value that that represents to the content that actually supports your business goals and gives you an ROI that you can measure. So, that does not mean that you need to be explicit or that using a call to action in your final paragraph is a substitute for something more topical and organic to facilitate your internal links and references to your important pages. In the online dating sense, don't sabotage yourself by landing a first date, a look by external websites, site owners, site editors who might consider linking to you, only to bait and switch your great pitch with something that is really just from your old bag of tricks and sales closers. That's not memorable. That's easy to ignore. So the classic example here would be you come up with something really compelling and a general non-threatening title. It sounds like something that people would really like to read, even if they're not your customers. But then when you get to the actual content, you scroll past the headline, you immediately segue into your classic bottom of the funnel calls to action, PR content, self-promotion, basically talking about what you want and making all the same classic mistakes. Don't ruin a great, linkable, appealing topic by substituting a sales pitch for the actual substance you promised with an interesting title. So, people have really been writing and talking and blogging about EAT, EAT, the expertise, authority, and trustworthiness that are not really a ranking factor in themselves, but sort of describe the core ways you can make content comport with Google's ranking algorithm, right? It's not new, but it's been getting increased attention, I think, because so many updates and changes to Google's algorithm is making old strategies not so effective. And people who used to be big winners in search are finding that status threatened a little bit. And it turns out the classics still work if your classics are built around EAT. So if you think about expertise as your ability as an expert to make connections between topics, between what you know most about, the things you know best, and the rest of the world, that is how you can create expert signals in linkable content. Awareness just means you know about a thing, you've heard of it. But being an expert means you know why that topic, why that idea matters, how it affects the rest of the world, and how it fits in with everyone else's areas of expertise. In other words, Demonstrating expertise with linkable content means making natural connections between your funnel, your area, your products and services, and other blogs and those other conversations occurring off of your website. In the parlance of dating, you don't need to show off or try to force someone to love what you love the way that you love it. You just need to connect with what they value, show interest in their interests, and establish common ground. Authority. Consider a common first date destination a nice dinner. How you interact with the host, the server, other guests at the restaurant, all of this behavior is a reflection on your own personality, temperament, and character. If you're rude and dismissive and condescending, that kind of speaks to the qualities you're going to bring to a relationship. Likewise, on your website, the sources that you cite and link to, the experts you choose to quote, and generally the way your content interacts with other relevant topical content from other websites, this is all a reflection on your brand and your domain's own credibility. So acknowledge that others also know about the things you know about. Link to them. Give credit to nonprofits, government websites, academics, university research papers, news articles, anyone else, not including direct competitors, of course, that has something of value to say about the topics that you're already trying to cover. And while we're talking about direct competitors, there's a fairly simple way to tell if something is or is not a direct competitor. Your direct competitors make money the way you make money, from the same people that you're trying to reach as leads or customers. Likewise, if you're out on a date, not everyone who talks to your date is flirting with them or representing some kind of romantic rival to you. It's okay for people to talk to people, but it would be catastrophic if you tried to own all of their attention on that first date. So don't try to hoard attention. Don't be demanding and controlling. And likewise, it's okay in between all of your internal links to the pages you care about to also reference, quote, and link to other offsite content. Ultimately, it makes you look like more of an authority because you're still controlling the conversation on your website while acknowledging the reality that exists around you. Finally, we've covered expertise, we've covered authoritativeness. Establishing trustworthiness in SEO is largely powered by the quality and diversity of your backlink profile. So on a date at some point, when you're really getting to know someone, it's going to be a good idea to introduce your date to friends, family, and other people whose opinions you personally respect. Likewise for them, if things go well, you can expect to be social media stalked and appraised by all their friends and relations, if not brought before them in person to get their evaluation and their approval. Other people's opinions matter, even if they're not the ones you're trying to court and ultimately convert into a client or a customer. This is how links work. You can't survive in the modern search landscape purely by appealing to your customers and leads, even though they keep the lights on for you. You have to bring something to the table that other non-converting readers and visitors can appreciate. If your appeal is limited only to your converting pages and keywords, you can't really earn links. So other content, other coverage is how you earn links to signal trustworthiness and ultimately appear in search and remain visible. So search, just like dating, online or in person, is about authenticity and connections between people. It's not about faking something. It's not about spamming people with insincere flattery or irrelevant conversant filler or other nonsense. Your goal at all times is to be authentic, which means making sure that what you write about connects to your core pages organically. You always want to be able to have that internal contextual link to your target pages, but it has to be relevant and natural. Unless we forget, you don't get to decide what makes something attractive to someone. You can't force them to like what you like or see you the way that you want to be seen. Likewise, when it comes to content, you can't decide what appeals to people or what deserves links. What you can do is pay attention. Step outside your old self-centered ways of thinking and communicating and prioritizing content and listen. engage with people where they're actually engaged already. Make yourself and your brand relevant to the external conversations, and then bring something of value so that you actually earn the links that you're looking for. As with all things in SEO, the dating game is always changing. What worked once may not be effective next time. What earned you first dates and swipes right for a period of your life may fizzle over time. And what was powering your link building campaign or efficacy in your ability to earn links might start to fade. That's just part of the challenge that we all have to rise to face. Stay relevant, stay engaging, and be willing to iterate and try new things. Now, I would like to move on to the Q&A portion of this. So I'm going to stop my share. And I know we've had a few blips in the chat and in the Q&A, so I'm going to try to get through those. But if anybody has any questions about the substance of this presentation or broader questions about SEO, I am happy to check them out. Okay, this is a great question. If you're trying to get links on a government or a university website, would you still link to them on your website too? Yes, unless they are direct competitors. You should probably know if a government organization or a university is a direct competitor. Do you offer degrees? More to the point, do you offer the same degrees as that university? Or if you're a government agency, are they in your same level of control? Like, are you a federal agency worried about linking to, I don't even know what a competing federal agency would look like. So in general, yeah, these kinds of nonprofit or public service oriented organizations, linking to them is a very powerful signal of your own relevance and credibility and authoritativeness. So if you're linking to them, that's a good signal on your website. And even if you're trying to get a link from them, it's not going to hurt your case if you're linking to them. You're really not going to be at risk of looking like you're engaging in like a link exchange scheme, because generally universities and government agencies and NGOs and things, they have enough credibility and they're already selective in who they link to. It's not going to get flagged by Google or really raise anyone's hackles that there's something unnatural going on there. All right, more questions coming in. How long does it take to see the effects of link building? Well, the value of link building is partly contingent on how robust your existing backlink profile is and that of your competitors. And I think this is a big misunderstanding that a lot of people have. If you're trying to measure your authority or your visibility based on something like domain authority, DA, that is not universal. It's really based on what niche you occupy. For example, if I have a hot dog stand and I create a website for it, I'm not really competing with the Library of Congress or a university to that point. I'm not competing with a shoe salesman down the street. We have no keywords in common. So the relative authority and backlink profile my hot dog stand needs doesn't really compare. It's not relevant to compare to that non-competing website. So how many links you need and how long it's going to take to start seeing the effects is really a different way of asking, how dense is the competition for the keywords I'm trying to rank for? How crowded is the SERP? How long have those websites been around and have they been link building for longer than me? The more competitive it is, the bigger the website, the more robust their backlink profile, the longer it's going to take for you to start to compete with them. And that would also be assuming that backlinks are the only thing that differentiate you from your competitor. So the sad truth of it is how long it's going to take depends on a lot of different factors. And probably just focusing on backlinks isn't going to be good enough. You need to make sure your technical SEO is all on point. You need to be mobile ready. You need content that actually answers the questions associated with the queries people are searching. Using a keyword isn't the same thing as being a useful, relevant result for that keyword. So all that being said, when we manage campaigns at Page One Power, if we start seeing a meaningful change in your performance positively after we've started link building, say 3 months ago, that's incredible. If we see it 6 months later, that's really great. But generally, we'd be looking to see a trend over an entire year before we start breaking out the champagne going, we did it, we can claim credit for this. We've fixed whatever's going on. So link building, kind of like finding the one, is an exercise in patience and endurance. How are you able to measure link building efforts? What is your approach and tool? So the ultimate goal of link building, it's not the links themselves, right? You can count your links, you can measure like the DA of every site that you get a link from, but that's not really the point. The point of any SEO exercise, remember, it's search engine optimization. You're trying to attain better rankings for the keywords that you're trying to rank for. You want to attain better visibility in organic search results. So we can count your backlinks. We can assess the anchor text, the actual hyperlink placement in context, what words are used. We can look at all these signals that are going to speak to the value and impact of those links. But really, we're going to look at the cumulative impact. That's the most important thing. At the end of the day, in building these links, are you ranking better for the keywords you're tracking? Are you ranking for more keywords than you were before? And ultimately, are you getting more traffic? That's ultimately what you're trying to attain with SEO, and link building is just one part of that. As far as tools, it's hard to beat just a Google search for your keywords, especially if you have like a VPN to make sure that it's not biased in favor of you searching your own website repeatedly. A Google search is a great way to see if you're showing up in Google searches, but you can also use all the classics, Moz, SEMrush, Ahrefs. I feel like the field is getting more crowded lately, but any tool that you use to track keywords or monitor SERP rankings is going to give you a general idea of how things are going. Ooh, here's a good technical question. How do you know when links stop working or when they point to a page that isn't there anymore? There's a couple ways to do this. It depends a little bit on the size of your website and the complexity of your site structure. But the way Google explores links is through a process we call crawling. There's a lot of anthropomorphization when we talk about Google, but basically Google is constantly following links across the web and seeing where it takes it, looking at the context on both sides. And there's actually a lot of tools that replicate the same approach to crawling that Google takes. I know internally we use Screaming Frog pretty prolifically, and Screaming Frog generates a report that basically tells you this link is broken, the page doesn't exist, or this page has moved, or this page. It's hard to catch links that are broken off your website with something like Screaming Frog. But if you're using like Majestic, I think is our favorite tool, but SEMrush and Moz Ahrefs to some extent do this too. They will look at how many pages are linking to you as a domain, but they can also track how many pages are linking to each page and how many domains are linking to each page on your website. And if you see that number changing over time, then you can dive in and see, well, where did you see links before that you're not seeing them now? And that might be a sign that a link has been removed or something isn't working on that end. So it gets a little bit more technical, but it is possible. But in the grand scheme of things, it's much more important to control the things you can actually control, which means the content on your website and the link structure on your website. So if you decide to move a page, you want to initiate a redirect. So any link pointing to that page bounces to the new page that better matches it. And if all else fails, you can always redirect to your home page. If you delete a page, same thing. You probably want to initiate a redirect instead of having that 404 and nothing shows up. All right, a lot of what I've read about SEO is related to businesses or someone selling a product, but I'm working on something that's more of an informative site, providing news and analysis of topics. Is there anything different that should be done for a site that isn't trying to sell? Uh, Not really. The algorithm that any search engine uses is designed to work regardless of the subject and regardless of the industry. If you're really just shopping, you're more likely to use like Walmart.com or Amazon.com to search for products, right? Because you don't need the full web, you only need retailers. If you're looking for images, you might just as well use Pinterest or Google Images. So when we're talking about Google, which searches all websites, uh, that's searching every media, that's searching every industry. So it has to be fairly robust to work all the time. So what that means from an SEO point of view is to rank well and get traffic from search for whatever you're talking about. This is why EAT is such a popular framework for thinking about search engine optimization. You need to demonstrate qualities of being credible, having good site design, which means it's easy to read, it's easy to navigate, it loads quickly, all these things that are part of the core web vitals that you sometimes hear about. Mobile friendliness, not having a lot of typographical errors, not having broken pages. All the things that matter to someone in retail would also matter to someone who isn't necessarily converting through direct sales. What we often talk about internally is if you don't make money by selling a product or service, you probably make money either through affiliates, which is helping someone else sell something, or through ads. So in a way, your version of conversion on your website is getting eyeballs. So you still want to link to the pages that host ads, and you still want to link to the pages that are the best representation of your area of topical expertise. All the same rules apply. If anything, it's a little bit simpler for you because you're not ultimately trying to push traffic down to a product page or a contact us form or something like that. Advice on getting links with manufacturers that also serve our competitors without it being seen as playing favorites. So if you're trying to earn links and it's not based on maybe getting a review or something that is reflective of preference or the quality of your business or your services as a whole, you really have to do it with content. If you're in a crowded industry and you have a manufacturer that serves your competitors, I'm assuming that means you're either in the supply chain or you have competing retailers selling the same product, you can still bring something new to the table to earn links with that compelling, unique content. With unique editorials, it doesn't always have to be fact-driven, right? If I'm a movie reviewer, I can earn links by having a really hot take on a movie, even if everyone's already seen it. So your voice in your industry and your ability to take even known facts and tell a new story around them can be a way to earn links to your website if your competitors aren't doing that. But also, you can look at what your competitors are doing and which pages they're earning links with, and look for an opportunity to join that conversation with something new or better than what they're earning links with. Like we're an SEO organization, so a lot has been said about all manner of SEO topics, but we like to think that we can put our own unique spin on things like earning links or doing keyword research that reaches a different audience or puts it more into layman's terms. We've even created content about things like tax policy or something governmental where you would expect the IRS to rank or you would expect the White House's website to rank. But in fact, the stilted, unnatural vernacular that government websites use doesn't make for very easy reading. So even if you just interpret basic public policy in new content, that can be really, really valuable for people who don't understand the gobbledygook of government policy speech. So a unique spin or just putting it in different terms for a different audience can still be a way to riff on a topic that other people are talking about in a new way that is worth linking to. What resources do we use to come up with linkable topics, and how do we gauge what people are into? So that can go a lot of different ways. Obviously, depending on the industry, we might look in different places. Google Trends is a pretty great place to start. I say that partly because it's free. It's not going to tell you search volume in absolute numbers, but it's a very simple graph that shows you if search for something is growing over time. Classic example, since we're kind of in election season, at least here in Boise, there's going to be a lot of proper nouns of candidates' names that historically don't get a lot of search because no one's heard of them. But when their name's on the ballot, suddenly people want to know who they are. So the Google trend graph will be flat. You'll see it kind of hovering around zero, and suddenly it'll shoot up to 100% because overnight, literally, there went from no measurable search volume for these words to massive search volume. Or you also see that during the pandemic with people being like, how do I cut my hair at home? You can find examples like that for almost any industry, and just a little bit of iteration to see what's a word associated with your industry. Like if we're talking manufacturing, I would go Google News search. What are some headlines about manufacturing? And then I would pop some of those words into Google Trends and see which one's hot, which one's really big right now. But if you want to be a little bit more evergreen, you can also come up with linkable topics, kind of like I was saying before, if you just know your industry and if people are shopping for this, then they also need this other thing, or what life events compel someone to start searching for your product or service. If you start thinking about your industry and your audience in those terms, I call it like if you give a mouse a cookie, right? It's going to want a glass of milk. You don't have to sell milk to write about it as a good dunking environment for your cookies. So whatever analogy is more appropriate to your industry and your company, it's those kinds of tangential spin-offs that are still on topic and relevant, but speak to a broader experience or something diverse where it's not obviously self-serving and you're not obviously using it to sell something. I think that takes care of most of the questions that have come through so far. Obviously, myself or a number of people at Page One Power would be happy to talk with you more if you have other questions, or if you're watching this after the fact and you weren't able to attend live, we are still happy to take your questions. Just get in touch with us. I believe we have a link here that you can use to sign up for a free consultation from one of our experts. So free 30-minute chat where we can look at your website and try to make some of this information more relevant to your specific niche instead of the kind of global information we're giving you. We create content and put out great advice and analysis of SEO news all the time. So check out our newsletter. You can subscribe on our website. There's a link in chat right now, but if you just check out our website, you can also sign up there. Thank you everyone for showing up, for listening, and thank you for the great questions. I look forward to connecting with some of you afterwards, and best of luck with your SEO efforts. I hope you can go out there and get some links now. Thank you.